So it's interesting that I've been married multiple times, and the common complaint for this assistant professor in communications is that I don't communicate very clearly.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to say to that since you referenced your marriage, but lack of proper communication is probably one of the number one problems in any field, in any aspect, walk of life. Or that's my personal opinion.
I am apparently
do not communicate effectively in a lot of areas.
I am told I am vague, speak in too many metaphors.
I'm just told I'm a smart ass.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's there too. Have you recently said something to somebody else that was clear to you but a mystery to them?
Yeah, daily. Yeah, probably a stretch, but a lot.
Yeah. My son, who is 22, and I engage in this sort of on a daily basis. I will try and say something innocuous to him. How was your day? He might say something back. It was fine. What did I forget to do?
I was expecting you to say just fine.
It was fine. What did I not do? What did you want me to do? What did you need me for? What did you blah, 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 blah. Because apparently I have to need something from him, right?
Sure.
And we have that conversation. He lives with me. We have that conversation.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how often, but pretty often, right? And part of that is that I tend to be a pretty positive person. I have students out here. I've got a former student in a show I'm directing in community theater this summer, and she always said of me, you say too many nice things.
Really?
I don't know if I can trust that. You never criticize me. Well, I just think, generally speaking, if it's, the statistics say at least 8 to 1 positive to negative, right? If not 12 to 15 to 1, and so I'm pretty careful about that. But then in her mind, then she questions, are you just being nice?
Well, she could just be a person that has a hard time accepting, compliments and praise, too.
She is. I recently told a young actor, I thought they did a great job, and she froze.
Yeah.
I sort of walked past her, and I looked back. I said, really, you did a great job. She said, Mr. Gibbons, I don't know how to take a compliment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do not like pats on the back. I really don't. I want to come up with something sarcastic in response, and then I feel like I'm upsetting someone that meant, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. But with my son has helped me with communicating more clearly.
Yeah.
Because, what you just said, my son lives with me. He's a teenage boy, but he takes everything literal.
Yeah.
He takes it literal and he means it literal.
Yeah.
Almost not much of a filter there. Now, as he's getting older, of course, we're seeing a little bit of a change to that. But I've had to learn to not be my sarcastic, trying to be funny, trying to get a laugh all the time. I can't do that with my son. And of course, the last 12 years, I've spent 90% of my day all day with him. So it's changed how I communicate in a sense.
Yeah.
But, I can't communicate with you here at school the way I communicate with my 15-year-old son at home too. So I think we all have to be able to adapt too. Communication is it's simple and it's complex.
Yep. Well, you can probably get the base level, but you get the deeper meaning. I tell kids all the time when we're doing oral comm, and we'll get into the speech that is motivational. I will say, okay, be careful with your language, because they'll be choosing a subject that matters to them, right? And some kid might do, I don't know, something about video games. Well, video games is all about bytes and things I don't understand, right?
No.
The vocabulary is already over my head when we begin, right? And so they are so passionate, and I have warned them, don't start in too deep. Do not, dive to the bottom. You've got to understand your audience. Sure. And they just off the high dive into the deep end of the pool, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're out of here.
my son, again, with him, he's the gamer, he knows all
Yeah.
about it. He will be telling one of our visitors all about this game, and then he'll say, Daddy, that means. And,
Absolutely, you got to do that.
but he knows to do that.
And not everybody does.
Not
It's good for
everybody
him.
does, exactly.
The wanted in chapter 2 is motivating yourself to become a better communicator. I think one of the problems is that we tend to be too subtle sometimes. I know that you're not known for your gift of subtlety. I don't think that's your claim to fame.
Well, I have lived my life knowing everything about us communicates. Everything about you communicates.
That is correct.
You know, you make a couple compliments about my
I like your hat. I
Well,
do.
you know, I don't wear this hat not knowing
Right.
it is communicating
Sure,
something.
sure.
You know, I got asked by a gentleman probably in his 70s. I was in the line at a Dollar General, and you know, I grew up in a very strict conservative household, and here I am, earring, right?
Right.
Well, this guy, you know, he just decides he wants to ask me, and this was when we're masked up and everything. Young man, I just want to ask you something. Why do you wear those earrings? And the only thing I could think to say was I'll probably wear them for the same reason that you wanted to ask me why I wear them.
Yeah,
And we left it at that.
sure.
But everything about you and I
Yes.
communicates something to someone all the time.
Do you get your message across?
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
you need to know what message you're trying to get across, is my point.
It is.
You need to know what you're trying to communicate because you're going to communicate something whether you're trying to or not.
That is correct. I think the other thing is to talk straight. So much code language today, right?
I spend my time on Google.
I
trying to figure out
mean,
issues.
you know, the Urban Slang Dictionary, working with college students, is a good friend to me because, you know, we came through the period of the LOLs and the whatever, and I never knew what any of those were. And then I don't always understand the GIFs or the memes. I don't get those all the time. You know, are you talking straight? Jeremy is a straight shooter. Jeremy calls it like he sees it, and he's going to name it.
That's right.
But a lot of people don't. A lot of
Right.
people will talk around it. Excuse me. I think particularly in a Southern culture, there is that bless your heart syndrome, which means you're an idiot, but you're my cousin or
Yeah.
something. You know, right? Like,
Well, kind of where my mind was drifting to was, if you don't want to be dealt with in a straightforward manner,
yeah,
you need to also recognize your own role in making this person comfortable enough to want
yeah.
to be honest with you.
Well, and we never leave any space or any room. There's no room
That's very well put. What you're saying.
to
Yeah.
say, I can bring you and I may not agree on something, but I believe we can have a good conversation about it. I believe there's room there for give and take. A lot of times when what we're doing, we're trying to communicate, particularly about something that matters to us, right? Intrinsically, like this is a big deal for us. And we don't leave any room for you at the table, right? There's no room for dialogue. I'm going to call it straight, but I'm going to call it so straight that I force you. You're either with me or against me, right?
Yeah.
There's no other room there.
That's the old Baptist preacher I remember hearing one time say, have you ever asked someone how they were doing and they actually told you?
Yes, I did. I was in another grocery store, and I asked them the same question,
Yeah.
how are you? And she took me seriously, and then I got
Yeah.
about 20 minutes more than I was looking for.
Right.
But it has worked more often than
Well,
not.
and I would argue that it will.
And I think that something the text argues for, and the way I say it is different than the way they say it. They say is stand behind what you say. I say I won't say anything I won't sign my name to. I know that we're in a digital culture now. Maybe it's a little different, but you know, in our generation, any important thing involved signing, a signature, right? What are you willing to? And then are you consistent? I get students all the time who are all over the map, right?
And this is our age difference.
Yes.
Between us and them.
Yeah.
Because as an adult, I've found more like-minded adults just want consistency. it drives them crazy. And we're coming from a supervisor in the workforce.
Sure.
But yeah, just be consistent. Even if it's not as good as I'd like it to be, at least I know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
So I think students are going to find that more and more aggravating the older they get, or at least that's been the experience I've seen.
The other thing that the text argues for is that good communicators talk with people and not at them.
At them. Oh.
And particularly, I think, no one likes to be talked down to.
No, this is an old common saying we have in police work, is everyone wants the police, they just don't want to be policed.
Yes,
And a lot of
yes,
similarities
yes.
there.
Yeah.
Why aren't you out catching them? Leave me alone. Saying, nobody wants to be talked down to. And I think this, again, goes back to you have to know you're communicating something even when you're not speaking. You can make a person feel belittled.
Sure.
Even by your actions, by your voice tone, not what's coming out of your mouth. Your voice tone and your posture can say just as much or more than the words can.
It's funny, I talk to my students all the time about sitting like this.
Yeah.
They'll come up here and they'll do a job interview and they're sitting like this. And I go, yeah, absolutely. No, you are closed, you are angry, and they're like, no, I just find that comfortable. Okay, well, don't do that here because
you're sending out negative signals.
That's it.
You're sending I'm shut down, and you've heard me talk
I
about
have.
that posture 1,000 times.
I think the other thing that I'm learning to do the older I get is to confirm understanding on the other end. Parenting helps with that. Son, what'd you hear me say right there? Well, what I heard was this.
Yeah.
I knew that intrinsically back as a young preacher, and I would get up and I would do a sermon, and I would go to the back, and the people would greet me, and they would say, preacher, that was a great sermon on grace, love, whatever, only I hadn't preached on that.
Right. I was going to say, how many times have you asked your son, what did you hear, and you got back something that you...
Totally different.
All
And
the time.
and not all of that is bad inherently. Some of that is based on where I'm at in this moment and the words you brought across. I took away this. That's not all the worst thing in the world, but it's helpful to confirm understanding. Did you pick up what I was putting down? Especially as a professor, I think my complaint with some of my colleagues is you're assuming that you communicated. It's a poor assumption. Confirm that what you thought you said is what you said.
And maybe you need to do that more often than if you're talking to someone that's... Because, how many times are you communicating with someone that's this
On their
the time?
phone. Yeah.
It may make you a little more inclined to then want to confirm what you said, but you don't use that as just the opening of the door there.
So the Libet is overcoming your own barriers to clear communication. And I'm going to stress that in the assignment for the week is, what do you believe that your barriers are to your own communication? Some of us don't know.
It's a good question to ask yourself and to be honest with yourself and find someone you're close to maybe to get a second opinion on that, because we both know others see things in us that we don't see ourselves.
So that's going to be the assignment. It's got two parts. Not only are you going to assess your own communication style, but then you have to ask other people about it. It's embarrassing because I do the assignments with the class. It's embarrassing.
Great exercise. It's a great exercise. None of us want to hear this about us, but that's why I said prefaced, find someone you're close with.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
it won't be as embarrassing.
That's it. Well, good luck. People skill too.